The old house had never felt this quiet before. For years, Daniel had lived alone, working long nights and sleeping through empty mornings. Dust gathered on shelves, dishes piled in the sink, and silence became his only companion. That was why he had finally done it, signed up for a new universal housekeeping service that promised helpers from anywhere in the galaxy. At first, he thought it was just marketing words, a catchy name, something futuristic. But when the doorbell rang and he opened the door, Daniel realized he had been wrong. She stood there, tall, slender, wearing a gray uniform that looked almost like a second skin. Her hair shimmered with a metallic shine, like threads of silver, catching the light. Her eyes, too bright, too steady, watched him in silence. They weren't human eyes. Not really. They glowed faintly, a pale blue that seemed to see through him. For a long second, Daniel forgot to breathe. "This is housekeeping service?" he finally asked, his voice cracking. She tilted her head slightly as though processing the question. Then she stepped forward, smooth and deliberate, her boots making no sound on the wooden floor. "I am your assigned caretaker," she said. Her voice was calm, precise, too precise. No accent, no hesitation. Like she had learned English from a machine. Daniel forced a smile. "Right, well, welcome. The place is a mess. You'll have plenty to do." But deep inside, a cold shiver ran down his spine. The alien housekeeper moved quickly, but without hurry. Every gesture seemed measured, exact. She picked up objects gently, but her hands never trembled. When she wiped dust from the shelves, it was as if her fingers had been designed for this one task. Daniel sat at the table, pretending to read a newspaper, but his eyes followed her every step. Something about her presence pressed against him. She wasn't just working in his house, she was studying it, studying him. She never hummed, never sighed, never made small talk. The only sounds were the faint scrape of cloth on wood, the quiet rhythm of her movements, and the unsettling silence that filled the spaces between. At one point, she paused in front of the window. Her glowing eyes scanned the night sky beyond, the glass as if searching for something far away. Then softly she whispered in a language Daniel didn't know. The words were smooth, melodic, and not of earth. Daniel froze. "What did you just say?" he asked. She turned her head slowly, the blue glow of her gaze locking onto his. For a heartbeat, Daniel felt pinned in place as though her stare held him like invisible chains. Then she said, in the same calm voice as before, "Nothing. A routine calculation." He laughed nervously, scratching the back of his neck. "Right. Routine. Of course." But he knew it wasn't nothing. He had heard tone, rhythm, intention in those alien words. As night fell, the housekeeper continued her work. Dishes clinked quietly as she cleaned. The air smelled faintly of something metallic, something sharp. Daniel sat on the couch pretending to watch TV, but the screen's glow did little to calm him. He kept glancing at her reflection in the dark window. She never looked tired. She never slowed down. Her movements were too exact, too controlled, and every so often she stopped, just for a second, to watch him. It wasn't like a maid watching her employer. It was like a soldier watching a target. Later, that night, Daniel woke to a faint sound, a whisper. He sat up in bed, heart thudding, ears straining. The house was dark, but the sound came again, low, strange, echoing like a voice underwater. He slipped quietly from his bed, stepping into the hallway. The whisper grew clearer. It came from the living room. Careful not to make a sound, Daniel peeked around the corner. The alien housekeeper stood there perfectly still, her glowing eyes dimmed to a pale shimmer. Her hands rested against the wall, her head tilted back slightly. She was speaking in that same alien language, words too smooth and fast for him to understand. But this time, she wasn't whispering to herself. A faint crackle hummed in the air, like static. The wall itself seemed alive with faint light, pulsing in response to her voice. It wasn't a wall anymore, it was a window, a channel, a hidden connection. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. She wasn't cleaning his house. She was contacting someone. The whisper ended. The light faded. The housekeeper lowered her hands and stood silently for a moment. Then slowly, her head turned, directly toward where Daniel hid in the shadows. Her glowing eyes fixed on him. And in that moment, he felt completely exposed. Daniel's body froze, his mind screaming to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The housekeeper stepped forward, smooth and silent, her gaze never breaking. "You should not have seen this," she said. Her voice was calm as ever, but this time Daniel felt the weight of something dangerous behind it. The silence in the room felt heavier than stone. Daniel stood frozen, caught in the glow of those alien eyes. The housekeeper's words, "You should not have seen this," still rang in his ears like a warning bell. She did not move closer. Not yet. Instead, she studied him as if calculating something unseen. Her face revealed nothing. No anger, no kindness, just a cold stillness that made his skin crawl. Daniel swallowed hard. I was just thirsty," he lied, voice shaking. "Heard something strange. Thought maybe a pipe or, the old wiring." The alien housekeeper blinked once, slow, deliberate. Then she lowered her gaze as though dismissing him. "Go back to bed," she said. Her voice was flat, but it carried a sharp edge like a blade hidden under silk. Daniel nodded quickly and backed away, forcing his legs to move even though every instinct screamed to run. He shut his bedroom door softly, then leaned against it, heart pounding in his chest. But sleep would not come. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the living room, warm and golden, yet the brightness did nothing to ease the memory of last night. Daniel moved carefully, watching her from the corner of his eye as she cleaned the kitchen. She looked normal. Too normal. She wiped counters. She washed dishes. She folded laundry. Her motions precise, smooth, inhumanly efficient, as though she had pressed a reset button overnight and returned to the role of silent servant. But Daniel knew better now. He had seen the wall glow. He had heard the alien whispers. She wasn't just a housekeeper. She was something else, entirely. "Coffee?" he asked, trying to act casual. She glanced at him, then nodded once. "Yes." Daniel poured 2 mugs. His hands shook slightly, but he covered it with a laugh. "Guess even aliens drink coffee, huh?" The housekeeper accepted the mug, but did not smile. She held it, studied the rising steam for a moment, and then set it aside without drinking. Her glowing eyes fixed on him. "I am not what you think," she said quietly. Daniel froze. "Then, what are you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned back to her tasks, her silence louder than words. Hours passed. Daniel tried to distract himself with work, scrolling through endless emails, but his mind kept circling back to her. Every time he looked up, she was there, moving soundlessly through the house, watching. She avoided mirrors. He noticed it now. Whenever she cleaned the bathroom, she turned the glass to the wall. Whenever she walked past the hallway mirror, she angled her body away, her glowing eyes never meeting her own reflection. And she never ate. Not once. The fridge remained untouched, the cabinets closed. When he offered her food, she only shook her head. The house felt less like his home and more like a cage. She moved in it like a guard, not a guest. That night, Daniel tried to test her. He waited until she was folding clothes in the laundry room, then slipped outside into the cold air. He walked quickly down the street, heart racing, pretending he was just going for a midnight stroll. But he didn't make it far. A soft sound behind him, like wind cutting through silk. He turned. She was there, just standing, only a few feet away. "You should not leave alone," she said. Daniel's mouth went dry. Are you following me?" Her head tilted slightly. I am watching you." The words were simple, but the weight in them made his stomach twist. Back inside, Daniel tried again. "Look," he said, forcing bravery into his voice. "You're scaring me. Last night I saw you contacting someone, talking in your language. Who was it? What do you want from me?" The alien housekeeper placed the folded shirt carefully on the couch. Then she stood still, facing him. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with a sudden, fluid motion, she stepped forward and pinned him against the wall. Her grip was iron. He couldn't move. Her strength was terrifying, far beyond human. Daniel's breath caught. His chest heaved under the pressure of her hand. He thought this was it, that she would snap his ribs like twigs. But then she spoke, her voice low, urgent. "They are coming for you." Daniel blinked, confused, terrified. "What? Who? What are you talking about?" Her grip tightened slightly, just enough to remind him she held his life between her fingers. "If you keep asking questions, if you keep watching us, they will know. And once they know, they will not stop." "Who?" he gasped. The alien leaned closer, her eyes glowing brighter now, cold light burning inches from his face. "Not me," she whispered. "Something worse." And just like that, she released him. Daniel collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath, clutching his chest. She turned away, expression unreadable, and walked calmly into the kitchen as if nothing had happened. The silence returned. Heavy. Endless. But Daniel knew now. She wasn't just hiding something. She was protecting him. From them. Whoever they were. The house no longer felt safe. For 2 days after that night, Daniel lived in constant fear. He moved carefully, spoke less, and tried to avoid her glowing eyes. But no matter where he went, she was there, silent, steady, always watching. Couldn't shake her words. "They are coming for you." Who were they? And why him? He was nobody. Just a man who lived alone. A man who ordered help because he couldn't keep his own house clean. How could he matter to anything beyond this world? But deep inside, Daniel knew. The strange service he signed up for, the whispers at night, the static glow on the wall, it wasn't random. It was connected. And now, he was caught in something far bigger than himself. That night, the storm came. Wind howled through the trees outside, rattling the windows. Rain hammered against the roof in heavy sheets. Daniel sat on the couch, pretending to read, though every word on the page blurred under his anxious eyes. The housekeeper stood by the window, perfectly still, staring into the dark storm. Her glowing eyes reflected faint light as thunder rolled across the sky. Daniel tried to break the silence. "You can't just keep saying nothing. I deserve to know what's happening." She didn't answer. Her gaze stayed fixed outside. Then, slowly, she spoke. "They are near." Daniel's stomach twisted. "Who?" Before she could answer, the lights flickered, and then went out. Darkness swallowed the house. Only the faint glow of her eyes remained. 2 pale blue points in the black. Daniel's heart pounded. Power outage. Storm, right? That's all? But she shook her head. No, not storm. Signal disruption. And then he heard it, a sound outside. Heavy, slow, like footsteps on wet ground. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The sound grew louder, closer, moving around the house. Branches cracked. Something scraped against the siding. "They've found us," she whispered. Before Daniel could ask more, she moved. Fast. Too fast. In a blur, she pulled him away from the window and shoved him toward the hallway. "Stay behind me. Do not move unless I say." Daniel stumbled, his chest tight with fear. "What is out there? What's happening?" She didn't answer. She crouched low, her glowing eyes scanning the dark. Her body shifted into a stance Daniel had never seen before. Ready, dangerous, like a predator waiting for the strike. Then, with a deafening crash, the back door burst open. Daniel yelped and fell back against the wall as shapes flooded into the room. They weren't human. Their bodies were tall and armored, their movements heavy but swift. Their eyes glowed too, but in a harsh red light that burned in the dark. Alien voices hissed through the air, sharp and violent, words Daniel couldn't understand. The housekeeper stepped forward, blocking Daniel with her body. Her calm voice rang out, firm and commanding, in that same alien tongue she had whispered to the wall. For a moment the intruders paused. Then one hissed back, raising a jagged weapon that gleamed in the flicker of lightning. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. This wasn't a burglary. This wasn't random. They had come for him. The first intruder lunged. The housekeeper moved like lightning. She caught the weapon mid-swing, twisted it, and threw the alien brute across the room. The floor shook with the impact. Another attacker charged, but she struck fast, her hand slamming into its chest, sending it crashing into the wall, with inhuman strength. Daniel watched, stunned, barely able to breathe. She wasn't a maid. She wasn't even just a protector. She was a warrior. But there were too many. Shadows filled the house, shapes moving in from every side. She fought with impossible speed, but Daniel saw the truth. She couldn't stop them, all. One of them slipped past her. Daniel gasped as the red-eyed alien lunged for him, claws outstretched. He stumbled back, arms raised to protect himself. But before he could scream, the creature grabbed him, pinning him to the floor. Its strength was crushing, its breath hot and foul against his skin. The housekeeper spun around, eyes blazing. She struck the attacker's back, forcing it to release him. But not before it hissed a single phrase into Daniel's ear, in perfect English. "Found you." The words chilled him to the bone. Daniel scrambled away, gasping for air, his body trembling. The housekeeper pulled him up, her glowing eyes brighter than ever. "Stay behind me," she shouted, her voice sharp, urgent. But Daniel could barely think. Found him? Why? Why did they want him? The fight raged on. Thunder roared outside as the house shook under the clash of alien forces. Furniture splintered, glass shattered. Sparks lit the dark as strange weapons collided. But through it all, Daniel kept hearing the words, "Found you. Found you. At last." The intruders pulled back, retreating into the storm. Their red eyes vanished into the rain, their voices fading into the distance. The house was wrecked. Shards of glass glittered on the floor. The air smelled of ozone and smoke. Daniel collapsed onto the couch, chest heaving, trying to process what had just happened. The housekeeper stood by the broken doorway, her body tense, her glowing eyes, scanning the darkness outside. "They will return," she said. Daniel swallowed hard. Who are they? What do they want with me?" For the first time she looked at him, not cold, not calculating, but almost sorrowful. "They hunt you," she whispered, "because you are not who you think you are." The house was silent again, but it was not peace. Broken glass crunched under Daniel's shoes as he walked across the wrecked living room. The storm still rumbled outside, rain dripping through the shattered doorway. His home, his safe place, was no longer his. The alien housekeeper stood near the door, staring out into the darkness. Her glowing eyes scanned the storm as if she could see through it, searching for any sign of the red-eyed intruders. Daniel's hands trembled. His body still ached where the creature had pinned him, and his mind spun with the memory of its voice. "Found you." He finally broke the silence. "Tell me the truth. Who were they? Why did they come for me?" The housekeeper turned, her expression as unreadable as ever. For a long time she did not answer. Then she spoke, her voice low, steady. "They are hunters. Soldiers of a faction that should not exist here. They were not here for your house. Not for this world. They were here for you." Daniel shook his head, almost laughing in disbelief. "Me? Why me? I'm nobody." She stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "You are not nobody. You are the reason they are here." The words hit him harder than any blow. Daniel staggered back, clutching the edge of the couch for balance. "No, that's impossible. I've lived a normal life. I don't even know who they were." Her voice sharpened. "And yet they knew you. They crossed worlds to find you. That is not nothing." Daniel sank onto the couch, his breath ragged. His mind screamed for reason, for logic. But all he could see was the creature's red eyes, its hand pressing him down, its voice whispering, "Found you." Finally, he whispered, "Then tell me, who am I?" The housekeeper hesitated. For the first time since she arrived, she looked conflicted. Not robotic, not precise. Human, almost. "You are human," she said carefully. "But you are also more. Your blood carries something, a code, a signal. I do not yet know if it is gift or curse. But they know it. And they want it." Daniel stared at her, his throat dry. "A code? In my blood?" She nodded. "Yes, hidden, but ancient. Something your people do not understand. Something they cannot be allowed to have." He laughed nervously, shaking his head. "That's insane. I've never been sick. Never. Nothing. How could I carry something like that?" The housekeeper stepped even closer, kneeling slightly so her glowing eyes met his directly. "Because it is not sickness, it is a beacon." Daniel blinked. "A beacon?" "Yes," she whispered. "You are a signal, a living key. And now that they have found you, more will come. They will not stop until you are taken or destroyed." Thunder shook the house again. Daniel buried his face in his hands. This was madness. It had to be. He was just a man, just Daniel. He paid bills. He watched late-night shows. He ordered pizza on Fridays. How could any of this be real? But then he remembered the red eyes, the inhuman strength, the way the wall had glowed under her hand. It was real, terrifyingly real. Finally, Daniel looked up. His voice was small. "So, what happens to me now?" The housekeeper studied him. Her expression was unreadable again, but her voice softened. "Now, you survive. I was not sent to clean your house. I was sent to protect you. Whether you trust me or not, it no longer matters. If you live, your people may yet live. If you fall," she paused, her eyes narrowing, "they fall too." Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to argue, to deny it, but the weight in her words crushed him. Humanity? Depending on him? It was ridiculous. But the memory of claws on his throat told him otherwise. Suddenly the room's shadows shifted. Daniel stiffened. The power was still out, but the air felt charged, buzzing faintly. The housekeeper's head snapped toward the far wall. Then he heard it, a faint tapping, slow, deliberate, from the window. Daniel's stomach dropped. "They're back." The housekeeper raised a hand, signaling him to stay silent. She moved closer to the window, her body tense, ready. The tapping grew louder, faster, then stopped. For a moment, only the sound of the storm filled the room. Then faintly, a voice hissed through the glass. "Human?" Daniel's heart nearly stopped. It was the same voice as before. The one that had whispered, "Found you." The housekeeper reacted instantly, pulling him away from the couch and toward the hallway. "Move. Now." Daniel stumbled after her. "But what if they're already inside?" She didn't answer. She pushed him into the basement stairwell, her glowing eyes hard. "Stay here. Do not make a sound." She shut the door before he could argue. The basement was dark, damp, filled with the smell of dust and old wood. Daniel crouched in the corner, every nerve alive with fear. Above him, faint thuds and crashes echoed through the house. The fight had started again. He hugged his knees to his chest, trembling, his mind spinning with her words. A beacon. A key. Humanity's hope. It didn't make sense. It couldn't be real. And yet, something deep inside him stirred. A memory he couldn't quite place. As if a locked door in his mind had shifted just a little. He pressed his forehead against his knees, whispering to himself, "I'm just Daniel. I'm just a man. I can't be more than that." But in the silence of the basement, a voice echoed in his memory, cold and certain, "Found you." The storm outside had not calmed. If anything, it grew stronger. Lightning split the sky in violent flashes, thunder shook the earth, and the rain hammered the roof like 1,000 fists. But it wasn't the storm that terrified Daniel. It was the silence between. He crouched. In the basement, every muscle tight, listening to the faint sounds above. Thuds, crashes, splintering wood. The alien housekeeper was fighting again, fighting to keep them out, or already fighting them inside. He wanted to stay hidden. He wanted to obey her command, but every sound from upstairs pulled at him, tearing him apart inside. And then came the scream. Not hers. Theirs. A high-pitched alien shriek that rattled the basement walls and cut into his chest like glass. Daniel's blood froze. The hunters were here. He stood, his legs trembling, and crept toward the basement door. Against every instinct, against every order she had given him, he pressed his ear to the wood. The fight was closer now. He could hear the housekeeper's voice, sharp, commanding, speaking in that alien tongue. He heard impacts, heavy and brutal, as if walls themselves were breaking under her blows. Then suddenly the door rattled. Something massive slammed into it from the other side. Daniel jumped back, heart racing, as dust drifted from the ceiling. He wasn't safe here. He was trapped. The door burst open. Daniel screamed as the wood splintered, flying in every direction. A shadow filled the stairwell, tall, armored, eyes glowing red. The hunter. It hissed, a low animal sound that shook Daniel to his core. Slowly, it descended the stairs, claws scraping the wall. Daniel stumbled back, desperate, searching for anything to defend himself. His hand found an old metal pipe leaning in the corner. He gripped it tight, though he knew it was useless. The creature lunged. Daniel swung wildly. The pipe cracked against the alien's armor with a hollow clang, barely slowing it. The hunter bared its teeth, grabbing the pipe and ripping it from his hands with terrifying ease. Daniel fell to the floor, scrambling backward, panic choking his breath. The creature raised its claw, ready to strike. And then, light, the housekeeper, appeared in the doorway, her glowing eyes blazing brighter than ever. In one motion, she slammed into the hunter, knocking it across the basement. The walls shuddered with the impact. She stood between Daniel and the creature, her body tense, her stance unshakable. "Stay behind me," she ordered. Daniel obeyed, crawling back against the wall, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The fight was chaos. The hunter swung its claws, but the housekeeper moved faster, blocking, dodging, countering with strikes so precise, they looked rehearsed. Every movement of hers was sharp, fluid, lethal. They fought like titans in the small space. Sparks flew as claw met flesh, as fists hit armor. Dust rained from the ceiling with each impact. Daniel could barely follow it. All he knew was that the housekeeper wasn't just strong. She was something else entirely. Her speed was unnatural. Her blows cracked the air like thunder. But the hunter didn't fall. It was stronger than the others. Smarter. It adjusted, adapting to her movements. And then, with a roar, it shoved her back, sending her crashing into the basement wall. Daniel gasped. She staggered but did not fall. The hunter turned its glowing red eyes toward him. Daniel froze. The creature advanced, slow and deliberate, savoring his fear. Its claw rose again, ready to strike. But the housekeeper moved first. She roared, not like a human, not like anything Daniel had ever heard. A sound that made the walls vibrate and the creature hesitate. She launched forward faster than lightning, grabbing the hunter by the throat. With inhuman strength, she slammed it against the wall, cracking the concrete. "Not him!" she hissed. The hunter thrashed, its claws scraping, her arms tearing fabric, leaving faint marks that healed almost instantly. Her eyes blazed brighter, her face twisted with fury. With a final crushing motion, she drove the creature to the floor and snapped its neck. The basement fell silent. Daniel sat frozen, his chest heaving, his hands shaking uncontrollably. His pipe lay useless on the ground beside him. The housekeeper stood over the body, her chest rising and falling, her glowing eyes fading slightly back to their usual steady light. Slowly she turned to him. "You cannot stay here," she said. Her voice was calm again, but there was an edge of urgency in it now. They know where you are. More will come. Daniel stared at her, wide-eyed. Why? Why me? You keep saying I'm a key, a signal. But I don't understand. I don't. Before he could finish, the sound of shattering glass echoed from above. Both of them froze. More had come. The housekeeper grabbed his arm, pulling him to his feet with ease. No time, she said sharply. You move when I move. Do not stop, do not look back. Daniel's legs felt like lead, but her grip was iron, forcing him forward. They ascended the stairs, stepping over broken wood past the dead hunter's body. The living room was chaos, windows shattered, wind howling through the open spaces, shadows moving inside. More red eyes, more hunters. Daniel's stomach dropped. There were too many. The housekeeper released him, stepping forward, her stance wide, her glowing eyes flaring bright again. She looked smaller compared to the monsters surrounding her, but she stood unshaken. Stay behind me, she whispered again. The hunters hissed, circling, their claws glinting in the storm's light. The house trembled under their weight. Daniel gripped the railing, heart hammering as he realized the truth. This wasn't just an attack. This was war, and he was at the center of it. The house was no longer a home. It was a battlefield. Shattered furniture, broken glass, scorch marks along the walls. Every corner screamed of chaos. The storm outside only added to the madness, lightning flashes throwing wild shadows across the ruins. Daniel pressed his back against the staircase railing, his chest tight, his breath shallow. Around him, the red-eyed hunters closed in, their hiss-like voices weaving through the air. There were too many. 5, 6, maybe more, moving like predators in the dark. The alien housekeeper stood in the center of the room, her body tense, glowing eyes burning brighter than ever. Her stance was firm, but Daniel saw the truth. She was outnumbered. Even she couldn't hold them off forever. One of the hunters stepped forward, taller than the rest. Its red eyes burned like fire as it pointed a claw at Daniel. Give him to us, it hissed, voice harsh, almost human. Give him and we spare you. Daniel's stomach dropped. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He turned his gaze toward the housekeeper, fear twisting inside him. Would she do it? Would she hand him over to save herself? She was strong, yes. She had fought for him, yes. But this was different. This was survival. The leader's voice cut through the storm again. Choose. Protect the human and die with him. Or step aside and live. The room went silent. Daniel's throat went dry. His eyes locked on the housekeeper. Every muscle in his body tensed as he waited for her answer. For a long moment she said nothing. Her glowing eyes flicked toward him, unblinking, unreadable. Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the way she had pinned him days ago, her strength crushing, her voice cold. You should not have seen this. Had it all been a lie? Had she only been guarding him until the right time, until she could hand him over? He wanted to speak. He wanted to beg her not to betray him. But fear strangled his voice. Finally, she turned back to the hunters. Her answer came in a single, sharp word. No. The hunters froze as if stunned by the boldness of her refusal. The leader's red eyes narrowed. Then you die with him. The housekeeper's body shifted. Her glow flared brighter, casting eerie light across the room. So be it. And then the storm inside the house began again. They lunged all at once. The housekeeper moved like lightning, intercepting the first claw, twisting it, breaking bone. Her counterattack was a blur. One hunter thrown into the wall, another slammed to the floor, but the others surged forward. The room erupted in chaos. Red light clashed with blue glow. The air filled with shrieks and thunder. Daniel ducked low, crawling behind the couch as shards of wood and sparks flew past his head. His heart hammered in his chest, each breath a fight. Through the chaos, he saw her. She fought like a storm, every strike precise, every motion fueled by fury. She wasn't just protecting him, she was choosing him. Against impossible odds, against death itself, she had chosen him. But the hunters were relentless. One slipped past her defenses and charged Daniel. Daniel screamed, scrambling back, his hand finding a broken shard of wood. He swung wildly, stabbing the creature in the shoulder. It roared in pain but didn't stop. Then the housekeeper appeared, striking it so hard the floor shook. She stood over Daniel, her chest heaving, her glowing eyes burning bright. "You live because I will it," she said, voice fierce. "Now move." She pulled him to his feet, shoving him toward the stairs. He stumbled, running without thought, as the fight raged behind him. The second floor was dark, broken, filled with the howl of wind from shattered windows. Daniel ran into his room, slamming the door behind him, though he knew it wouldn't stop anything. He pressed his back to the wall, gasping, shaking, his mind spinning. Why? Why would she choose him? He wasn't special. He wasn't brave. He was nothing but a frightened man caught in something too big. And yet, she had chosen him. The fight downstairs grew louder, heavier. Furniture shattered. The ceiling groaned as if the whole house might collapse. Then, silence. Daniel froze, breath caught in his chest. Silence was worse. Silence meant something had ended. The floorboards creaked. Heavy footsteps climbed the stairs, too heavy to be hers. Daniel's heart pounded as the bedroom door splintered. The leader stepped through, eyes glowing red, claws dripping with dust and debris. Daniel backed against the wall, throat dry, no words coming out. The leader raised its claw. End of chase. It hissed. And then the housekeeper appeared. Her body was battered, her uniform torn. Faint blue light glowing from wounds that healed slowly before his eyes. She was hurt, but not beaten. She stepped between Daniel and the hunter once more. Her voice rang like steel. "He is under my protection. To take him, you must go through me." The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "So be it." It lunged. The housekeeper met it head-on. The clash shook the entire house. Blue and red light flared across the walls, shadows twisting like living things. Daniel could only watch, frozen, as the two warriors collided, his fate hanging in the balance. The walls shook with every blow. Daniel pressed himself against the corner of the ruined bedroom, his chest rising and falling in panicked rhythm. Before him, the housekeeper and the hunter leader clashed like gods of war. Their strength was beyond human. The air cracked with each strike. The floor splintered beneath their feet. Red light clashed with blue glow, turning the storm-lit room into a battlefield of shadows and fire. Daniel's ears rang with the sound of it. His mind screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. He was trapped, his life balanced on the outcome of this impossible fight. The leader roared, swinging its massive claw. The housekeeper ducked low, countering with a strike that sent the creature crashing into the wall. Plaster rained from the ceiling, but the hunter rose again unfazed. It laughed, a harsh sound that made Daniel's stomach twist. "You are weak," it hissed in its broken, almost human voice. "You bleed. You fail." The housekeeper's glowing eyes flared brighter. She charged, her movements faster than Daniel could follow. Her fist slammed into the hunter's chest, cracking armor, sending sparks into the air. For a moment, Daniel thought she had won. Then the hunter caught her wrist mid-strike and twisted. She cried out, the first sound of pain Daniel had ever heard from her. The sight cut through him. She wasn't invincible, she wasn't untouchable, she was risking everything. For him. "No," Daniel shouted, his voice hoarse. He grabbed the broken lamp from the floor and hurled it at the hunter. It struck the creature's head with a hollow crack. Barely enough to distract it. But enough. The housekeeper seized the opening. With a roar, she tore free from its grip, slamming both hands into the hunter's chest. A surge of blue light flared from her palms, filling the room with blinding brilliance. The hunter screamed, its body convulsing, its red eyes flickering. Then, with a violent crash, it flew backward through the broken window. Lightning split the sky as the creature fell into the storm below, disappearing into the darkness. The room went still. Daniel's breath came in sharp gasps. His hands trembled, his whole body weak with adrenaline. The housekeeper stood in the shattered window frame, her chest rising and falling, faint cracks of blue light still glowing along her skin. She looked battered, worn, but victorious. Finally, she turned to him. Her glowing eyes softened slightly. It is over, for now. Daniel staggered forward, collapsing onto the broken bed frame. For now? You mean, more of them are coming? She nodded once. Yes, they will not stop. His chest tightened. He pressed his hands into his face. Why me? Why do they want me? I can't be what you say. I'm not special. I'm nothing. The housekeeper stepped closer. She crouched in front of him, her glowing eyes meeting his directly. For the first time, her voice softened, almost gentle. You are not nothing. You are the reason I was sent here. You carry, in your blood, a signal older than your world, a code written before your kind knew the stars. To them you are prey. To me. She paused. To me, you are hope. Daniel's throat tightened. His mind raced, trying to absorb the words. Hope for what? Her gaze held his, steady and unblinking. Hope that your people may rise before they are destroyed. The storm outside began to fade, thunder rolling further into the distance. But Daniel felt no relief. His world had already changed forever. He stood slowly, shaking, his head. I don't understand any of this. I don't want to be some key or beacon or whatever. I just want my life back. The housekeeper tilted her head, her expression unreadable. That is no longer possible. Her words were final. Heavy. Daniel laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. So what now? Do I just wait for them to come back and tear me apart? She shook her head. No, you will train. You will prepare. And when they return, you will not run. You will fight. Daniel stared at her, wide-eyed. Fight? I don't even know how to fight. I'm not a soldier, I'm just Daniel. Her glowing eyes brightened, cutting through the dark. You are more than Daniel, and soon you will remember. The words chilled him. Remember? What do you mean? Remember. The housekeeper stood, stepping closer to the shattered window. She looked out into the fading storm, her metallic hair glinting in the dim light. The truth of what you are has been hidden, buried. But it cannot stay buried forever. The hunters know. That is why they chase you. Daniel's chest tightened. Then tell me what I really am. She turned, her eyes locking on his. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then she whispered words that shook him to the core. You are not just human. You are their weapon, or their salvation. Daniel's breath caught. His knees felt weak, his mind spinning. Before he could respond, the faint hum of static filled the air. He looked around, confused. The broken wall behind the housekeeper shimmered, light crawling across it like before, the way he had first seen her whispering to the unseen. She stiffened, stepping back. They are already searching again. Daniel's heart dropped. Already? She nodded, her voice sharp. There is no time, we must leave this place. If you stay, you die. If you run, maybe you live long enough to learn what you are meant to be. She extended her hand toward him. But you must choose. Do you trust me or not? Daniel stared at her hand. His body shook. His mind screamed. She was alien. She was strange. She was dangerous. But she had also saved him. Fought for him. Chosen. Him. He took a trembling breath, then reached out. His fingers closed around hers. Her glowing eyes brightened, fierce and determined. Then hold on. The wall flared with blue light, swallowing them whole. And in that moment, as the world dissolved, around him Daniel understood one thing with bone-deep certainty. His life was no longer his own.